Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I wouldn't make any sense up here on my own, would I? One more time, I'd like to introduce you again to my honored guest from the board of Suspilne Media, the public broadcaster in Ukraine, Andriy Taranov. Welcome to Prague, and welcome to Radio Days.
Good evening.
So, Andriy, just to give you a picture, when we were in touch, we've been working or been in touch for quite some time now. Last time we were in touch before Andriy came here, he told me he had a bulletproof vest on and he was facing basically the front line with the Russians on the other side. And that was what, 5 days ago or something?
Last Wednesday.
It was last Wednesday. So this is how close we are to this atrocious and terrible conflict. First question has to be, Andriy, how are you? How is your family? How is everything with you personally? Are you well?
Oh, thank you. I'm fine.
Good.
Well, there's a lot of things that's changed, and well, definitely you get used to many things that seem to be unimaginable. But still, I'm okay. My younger kids used to stay in Greece, for which I'm very grateful to my friends and colleagues there with grandma. But they will return to Ukraine. My son is here with me, and I will take him back to Kyiv, and the younger daughter stays for a while, but then she's back too.
You will actually take your children back to Kyiv
Yes.
in a few days?
Yes, I believe
Wow.
Kyiv is safe enough in terms of personal safety now.
Okay. Wow.
So and we keep working, and well, I had a couple of slides to show maybe
Yes.
about how it went on since
can
the
see it
war
here.
began,
it
and yes, we keep working, we keep doing many things now, starting from Eurovision and ending with Eurovision and some news in between, you know. So basically, I just wanted to give you a couple of illustrations, because before the war started, we were in the process of transforming the company from the separate entities that were covering television, radio, and the digital assets into the true multimedia integrated team that will produce the content that is deliverable through any platform. So I think we were very synchronic to what's going on around here with the public broadcasters and media companies around the continent. And well, suddenly the war started. We did have emergency scenarios. We were preparing for the worst. I must say that I personally never believed. It was so hard to believe that it starts, but rationally thinking, we had to be prepared, and we did some preliminary reserve bases. So we moved the second day, I think. We moved right from Kyiv bomb shelter to Lviv center to do reserve, to launch a reserve broadcasting center, and it still works now. So we do a lot of things that concerning decentralization of our hardware and of our broadcasting capabilities, so that we can operate from 5 cities in Ukraine. If 4 of them are down, 1 of them will be still on. And this is the first thing that we faced, was safety in 2 meanings. On one hand, safety for our team, for our journalists, for those people who got into the occupation in many cases, to our listeners and viewers and readers who were expecting our news as a source of understanding where is the safe way to go, what they should do. Here I'm standing in front of Kherson TV tower that was blown up by Russians when they retreated from Kherson. So they attacked the TV and radio infrastructures in the first days of the war. So our main tower in Kyiv was hit, I think, in the 3rd day of the war, something like that.
And I mean, the main tower is just next to the actual broadcasting house in Kyiv, right? So it's just a few steps away.
Yes, they had 2 missiles. The one that was targeting the news house missed. So they just hit the tower, but they killed 5 people who were walking in the park around. And we actually, after some time in Lviv when we're doing reserve broadcasting, we were back to Kyiv, and now we have a base on the old radio building that is almost 100 years old, like the Český rozhlas. We moved television, radio, and digital assets all together in the big radio building to produce it together. But the other thing about safety was distribution, which was meant that if we want people to feel safer, we need to deliver them the information through whatever means we can. And radio definitely was a great and important thing at that time, medium at that moment, because again, before the war, there were huge discussions about AM broadcasting, which there was a plan to switch it off basically because no one would listen to that. Now, now we're speaking about increasing number of AM transmitters, and when anyone asks me, like, can we make a research about whether we need AM broadcast, I say, can you make a research about fire alarm? You don't never need a fire alarm until the fire starts. So this looks very old-fashioned, but this was the signal that was reaching people, the millions of people that appeared to be on the roads with limited distribution of FM broadcast. But on the other hand, the most modern ways to distribute the signal were used as well. As I told in the morning briefly, we have electronic ID app, DIA, and it's now it's with millions and millions of Ukrainian. I think almost there's little people who don't have it actually. And inside this electronic ID that you would have in your smartphone, there appeared to be the parts with the news distribution from television and from Ukrainsky radio, which is the easiest way when you have mobile traffic, and even if it's very limited on very low speeds, you can get radio signal, not the signal, but radio content delivered to you through your passport. It's kind of strange thing to say, I believe.
So the idea is, if the normal infrastructure is destroyed or inhibited, you use the app, which is the official identification card app,
yep.
And you go into that app, and this is how you distribute news and information.
Yeah, you press the button, it has the button people. Radio, and you press the button radio, and you got Ukrainsky radio.
That's cool.
That was strange, but it works very well.
Yeah.
But this is the other part, the other reality, I think, the digital reality. And I must say that mobile networks adapted very fast, and we never lost mobile connections outside of the direct frontline zones. Mm-hmm. So it was very important to have this one all with your mobile traffic, for sure. So. But then definitely most of our work was, and it is, our primarily focus to deliver the news. So again, I just wanted to show you, this is our newsroom in Kherson actually. This is a bomb shelter. They work there full-time, 100%, so it's not like someone who lives in the office and then goes down for air alert.
This is the newsroom?
This is the newsroom in Kherson, yes.
Okay.
Last Wednesday. And these are the people, we're all used to the pictures of the reporters standing in front of something, yeah. But those are the people who do the everyday job and who just ride their bicycle before. They prefer to do it earlier than the artillery rounds start exchanging. That's how it works in Kherson now. And well, here you got some pictures. The guy with the pillows is sitting in the village next to Chernihiv during the Chernihiv siege. So this was his newsroom in the moment when no one knew how close the Russians will come and whether they capture Chernihiv or not. Vadim on the other side was preparing his radio shows about the Russian disinformation campaigns right from the basement of his house. And well, we have plenty of those examples. And this is where the audio production and audio delivery helped us a lot to provide people with the information on time where they need it through the channels that don't take too much resource, so people can afford them without electricity, without internet, with limited capabilities on any of the segments, Mm-hmm. So, but what's important was to keep morale high and to inspire people. You can't do just news and you hear it everywhere about people getting tired of the news. It's natural. You can be sitting in the bomb shelter and still get tired of the news, though the news help to keep you alive. So this is the Lviv bomb shelter, and you will have 2 GMs of 2 of 3 of our radio stations here with the team. The team was really, I was really impressed. I'm a newcomer to the public broadcasting system. I joined 3 weeks before the war started on the 1st of February. So I was really impressed about how the team of hundreds of people got together to do the things that we should do, and well, no one was asking questions. Everyone was trying to do what he can. And we do a lot of culture-oriented projects to help people understand that we move on and that we are we're never stopping. You asked me about the badge. We have plenty of pop art. We have plenty of things around the war that might be even funny.
Let me read the badge just so you get it. The badge says, "Russian warship, go fuck yourself."
Everyone knows the phrase, I know, believe it. This was made by some students producing the pins, you know. And speaking about what we did was a cultural project, meaning from pop stars on Radio Promen is the radio station that is devoted to pop and rock and music, mainstream more or less. And we had more than 100, I think something little lower than 200 new songs produced within a year that were presented on the station, and we gave a floor to the artists because, you know, everyone feels differently, but they had a moment to speak about what they do, how they want to do that, and what are their new songs about, definitely. And we had a cultural dialogues with the artists and writers and poets, creating the content for much wider audience. By the way, any of those stations grew times in terms of audiences, just because people started getting concerned about whether they understand what culturally that this means, where we should go when we win. You know, so there were a lot of discussions, and it was very well accepted by the public. Last but not least, for those people who had limited access to television, we had radio broadcasts for World Cup, Football World Cup, for boxing games, and we keep doing that because in case if people have limited access, they can at least hear that. Moreover, when it's available through online platforms, because there's less copyright issues about that. For many people, we heard a lot of feedback that for many Ukrainians abroad who love sports and who wanted to watch something, they could get Ukrainian audio through some websites. It was distributed through different web platforms as well, I believe. And what's the most radio project in terms of cultural impact that we did was the radio dictation. It was an annual project on Radio Kultura and Ukrainsky Radio that was devoted to educational reasons. Like we took a big star. It could be this year. It was Ada Rolhovtseva, who is a great theater and cinema star in Ukraine.
So a very famous lady.
Yeah, she is a famous lady, definitely. And usually the idea is that the star reads the text by one of the contemporary Ukrainian writers. So we promote contemporary Ukrainian literature, and we promote the idea that your grammar should get better. I can't say mine is good enough. But it sounds pretty boring if you put it on the paper.
Well, you should see mine in Ukrainian. That would be terrible. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, but it turned to be a project that unites a lot of people around Ukrainian culture and Ukrainian language, and it was getting momentum before the war in the recent years because people were. It was the trend that more people were speaking Ukrainian every year. More people were interested in contemporary culture. This is where we tried to. Education meets entertainment. It's still entertainment, you know. Contemporary literature must be kind of entertainment. But the year of the war, the last year, we had you could send when you write it, you could send a letter, email or paper one to our offices, and then you got the feedback about how many mistakes you had made. We had 40,000 letters. People were writing it in trenches. We got paper letters from the trenches. We got paper letters from the bunkers, whatever. We got more than 1 million views on the video platforms distributed by Ukrainsky Radio through our YouTube channels on the other assets of Suspilne Mowlення, of the public broadcaster. Yeah. So millions of people got connected through a thing that you would hate at primary school, you know.
Just for a dictation, a simple dictation game, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's gamification of dictation, definitely, but it worked so well that we will definitely continue this project. But it couldn't have happened if it hadn't been for the radio to launch it, you know.
Yeah.
So I do believe that radio plays a hugely important role now, and yes, we should be audio and should be well distributed everywhere. We think a lot of how we will do it in terms of better reaching people who need it with smaller parts, with bigger parts, with big audio products, etc. And it's not news, it's culture as well. So this is, I think this is important role of the public broadcaster that we try to play now. So that's basically the pictures I would like to show you. I think my Czech is bad, so I think Děkuji must be with a different accent. But I couldn't find it, sorry.
There's not many Czechs here, so nobody will notice. It's a very international audience. Thanks also for the pictures and for all that. You know what? It sounds like it's actually very functional for a country at war. And how many alerts do you have per day? How often do you have to run into the bunker on a normal day?
Well, in Kyiv, it used to be last couple of weeks. It used to be like 2-3 times per day. It could be from half an hour to 2 hours, depending on the situation.
Okay, so just make the picture. 3 times a day, the siren goes off. You have to run into the bunker, and you have to stay there for half an hour up to 2 hours. That happens 3 times a day, every day, and you're still able to produce all that.
Yes, we built, through this time, we built studios for television and radio broadcasts in every bunker, in every office of those cities where we planned the reserve centers.
That sounds like an amazing achievement.
Our announcers, they go during the live air, they put the ads on and go down there, and in 5 minutes they're back live.
And the show must go on.
Yes. Like we had the Eurovision commands. The Eurovision was very strict on scenario, so you can't switch them off for a couple of minutes. So when you speak about live sports broadcast and live Eurovision commands, we do it from bunker 100% so that it goes smoothly.
Yeah, I find it super impressive to work at such a rate under these circumstances. It sounds like there are a lot of people who really put their sweat, blood and tears into this on a daily basis. And it also sounds like Suspilne is quite functional. Working. How functional is life in Ukraine, generally speaking, like supermarkets, getting money, going for a drink? Is that possible? What's that like on a normal life?
Oh, it's different along the front line and in the cities that are close to the front line, definitely. But in big towns in Kyiv, everything is working, and we were saving on electricity for a while. And on top of the alerts, we used to have the blackouts for, say, 2-3 hours, then another 2 hours on, then 2-3 hours off. Now everything works. We won that battle, so we have the supply of energy is consistent. Everything works. From yesterday, my friends told me that they wait for me back because the curfew has moved from 11 p.m. to 0 p.m.
So that means you can stay outside until midnight.
Yeah. What surprises me when I'm crossing the border is that you don't need to rush home by 11 p.m. because you're under arrest.
Yeah.
This is strange. You get used to different way of living, you know, and then suddenly you find the way that you're not in a rush.
Yeah.
But actually, speaking for now, the banks are working, the mobile communication is working, supermarkets. I had plenty of British journalists taking pictures with the tomatoes in Kyiv supermarkets.
Because there's more tomatoes in Kyiv than there are in London?
Yes, and even Odessa and Mykolaiv had enough tomatoes for them.
Interesting. So that's Brexit, woo. Okay.
Yeah, and it's you get used to things like alerts, but the bad thing is that it still gets on your consciousness, definitely.
Of course.
The alert you miss might be the alert when they have the missile flying on your town.
Yeah.
That's kind of strange.
Yeah. And I mean, we're joking now, and it's all fine, but people are dying on a daily basis in this war.
We lost
That
several
is
people.
not a joke. That is happening every single day. How, as a radio station, when I had the pleasure to work in Kyiv a few years ago, I found it interesting that as a radio station and also as a people, it's basically a bilingual society. There were a lot of people who spoke Russian just because it's kind of what you speak there anyway, and then a lot of people speak Ukrainian, and most of them spoke kind of both in some sort of an interesting mix. How do you and how does Suspilne look at the Russian language today?
Look, Ukrainian was promoted in order to defend it from just disappearing.
Of course, yes.
We have many people ask different questions around that, and the laboratory. We have a lab case. You can compare us to Belarus. In 1991, we had the same percentage of people speaking Belarusian and Ukrainian. It was somewhere between 40 and 50, roughly around maybe a little less, maybe closer to 40 average country. Now we are getting closer to 70, and Belarus is zero.
Zero.
This is when people tell you that we shouldn't protect Ukrainian language. You can show them the sample next door.
Well, and language makes reality, doesn't it?
Yes, it is important part, and it was important that since for last 10 years it was getting more and more fashionable, and there was a lot of pop product, and it was really fun to speak more Ukrainian, and it was growing, but it was growing very steadily, like a couple % per year. There was no rush in this process. It was normal evolution. Now. A war and any huge crisis, war squeezes many processes, and this is the moment when things that could take 10 years might happen in a week. So now we have a huge growth in usage of Ukrainian language. I'm another lab example if you want. Ethnically I'm 50% Russian. Russian is my native tongue. I gave up speaking Russian since the war started. I will not do it in public. I don't do it at home anymore. My kids speak Ukrainian too now, though they were used to be
let me get that right. It was your mother tongue to speak Russian. That would be the normal language.
I didn't speak Ukrainian until I was 5.
Okay, but on if there were no war, you would say your normal language that you think in, that you dream in is.
I was evoluting too.
Yes.
My kids started speaking Ukrainian like 10 years ago, and we were doing both ways, and there was no rush and no tension about that.
But then you made an active decision to say, I'm not going to speak this language anymore.
Yes.
And you only speak Ukrainian now.
Yes, I speak Ukrainian. Yes.
I think that's really interesting.
But I'm the example showing that this is not an ethnic conflict, and I always say that we fight the zombie Soviet Union. As any zombie movies, you can put the aesthetics there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, people are not evil just because they have a Russian passport or Russian DNA or whatever. That should be clear. But
this is neither ethnic nor religious conflict.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting how this language issue is treated because, again, when I was in Kyiv a few years ago, it was completely normal to speak Russian. Well, I speak neither, but people spoke Russian or Ukrainian, and it was a completely exchangeable thing. And now there are a lot of people who say, I'm not using this language anymore because it's the language of the oppressor.
But you'll still hear it a lot in the street.
And you hear it. Other people say, the Russian language doesn't belong to the Russians. It belongs to everybody. Just like the English language doesn't belong to the English. It belongs to a lot of other people also who are happy and free to speak it.
Yeah, there was a funny sign when many people from Eastern Ukraine moved to Lviv, and they all tried to start speaking Ukrainian because they felt like it shows the unity. It's a symbolic act, and definitely they spoke very bad Ukrainian in most cases. But in Lviv, many shops were decorated with the sign saying, "Hey guys, if you speak bad Ukrainian, we love you. Just keep trying."
Yeah. By the way, Andriy has agreed to answer questions from the audience. So if you have any, get ready. I will have a look if I can see anyone. If there are questions in the audience before we wrap up. But I have loads of more questions. For example, you're here now. You were in Kherson a few days ago. Take us with you a little. What is it like to be there today? What does that feel like? I mean, we all know these pictures from television, right? With the vest on and the bombs and the Russians on the other side of the river. How does that feel?
Well, when you move on, you take a car and you start moving. The thing is that, as soon as they tried to conquer Kyiv, you have a lot of places around you. It's not like in 2014, all of the war was like 700 kilometers away from Kyiv and hundreds of kilometers away from most of big cities except for Donetsk and Lugansk. So before you get there, you just feel nothing in 2016, 17, for example. Yes. Now you can't live with that feeling around you, and all the people have someone who is in service. Everyone has someone who died. Everyone has someone who emigrated or lost his house. Our regional manager who runs the local offices, he is from Crimea, so he fled once to Kyiv. He built his country house in Bucha, and it was burned to the ground. So you have these stories flying around with every Ukrainian in the street now. So it's not like it used to be before that you can live your life without noticing that. But still, when you move on in the car, it's like first Kyiv is okay. Suburbs are, if you go southwards to Odessa, suburbs are even better, and it's normal country life. Odessa feels like there's no war because they're a port town and they never care. This is Black Sea and they all feel relaxed. Though they are bombed by missiles from time to time. It's a very strange feeling. Then you go to Mykolaiv. Mykolaiv switches lights. This is a river port, the big one too. They switch lights off down to zero. We went there in the evening, so you had to sense the door of the hotel actually. We knew the parking by the Google Maps, and then we tried to sense the door. And then you open this normal hotel inside. It's just all covered with the wooden plates, so that there's no lights, and because they can shoot the artillery, I believe they can't reach Mykolaiv now, but they used to be able before. But Mykolaiv still have supermarket there. You have the cash machines working, and everything is still working there. Many people.
Amazing.
And then in an hour you cross the places where there was heavy fighting, and there are blue rooftops on the village houses now around the villages, which means the blue is a plastic, just a shopping bag the size of the roof of the house, because there's no house that left intact, and this was made for the winter for villagers, so many people didn't leave. So you have people living there under these plastic covers, and then you enter Kherson, which used to be hundreds of people, and now might be, I don't know, 3,000-5,000 people. Well, it used to be hundreds of thousands. Now it's thousands of people.
Okay.
So it looks like a deserted. Doesn't look ghost, but it looks deserted. And our office is pretty close from the bank of the river. The other side is controlled by the Russian army. Yeah. So we arrived in the morning. They go to work at 9 in the morning. So when we left, like 10 minutes before 9, in 10 minutes they started artillery rounds on Kherson. So you live under the pressure. You hear it every moment there. It's very different.
How do you communicate briefly with reporters? I mean, you have reporters all over the place who report, of course, for your audience. How is that technical work? Is working as a journalist for Suspilne, it's possible, obviously, but how do you do that? Do you WhatsApp or do you call, or how do you do that?
There was a transition before the war started, because we have a huge network of regional journalists, and our journalists became the backbone for information in many cases. Speaking of Kherson again, there were our guys who were providing the news from the occupation, and radio was much better because they never showed their faces. As strange as it sounds. But they used messengers, like WhatsApp was working pretty well. There's a lot of distribution through digital infrastructure. As I told you, the mobile communications work pretty well. So you better have your files transferred to the center, and then the hub will take it and spread it around. So we centralize the distribution, we localize the news gathering, I would say. This is how it works. And this is what we plan to do after the war as well.
I'm checking if there are any questions in the audience. I see a gentleman with a red pullover or something. If you could just go to the microphone, sir, please, and ask your question.
Hi, my name is Michael Epstein. I'm from the United States in San Francisco. And first of all, I wanted to say thank you very much for the work you're doing. We all follow the story and think about you all a lot. My question is about what you were saying with how people don't just want news, they also need like uplifting arts, entertainment, other things. And I'm wondering if you've seen the development of new formats, both for entertainment but also the news, given the situation, how you're talking about how things get compressed, you know, things that take a longer time to form are forming faster. And I'm also wondering specifically if when there's like an air raid, if you put on different programming, like people who are in a bomb shelter prefer to hear classical music or something like that, if you can actually program for cities that are undergoing an air raid.
Well, we try to make our products available to everyone. It depends on the way they get the media in. So in every other bomb shelter now you will have a Wi-Fi router now. So you can. We were again speaking about the whole holding. The first thing we did, we put more cartoons and Ukrainian classical movies on the Culture channel. For kids and grandmas, actually, for those who are the least protected, so they can watch some, well, pretty, not as slow TV as it is, but pretty quiet content to feel better. For the radio, I would say that, and this is what I think is strange, we had a huge growth of stand-up scene. And there were stand-up shows in the shelters. Actually, we wanted to make such a format for, and we wanted to combine television and radio and live on YouTube streams. But now we moved to more classical format of shooting it for television on stage and go in radio. You know, our guy was on Letterman's show. Anton, who is part of our stand-up team, was part of David Letterman's show when he went to interview Mr. President. Stand-up comedian, yeah. So stand-up is fine, and but there's huge burst of interest in terms of documentaries, and it's not at all. What we do about the war is definitely rather for the external audiences, because we saw all of that. I can't watch the documentaries about what's going on around us now, you know. I just can't do it physically. But we have plenty of demand, and we see it from the audience figures for documentaries. And this is where we do multimedia things, like we do radio shows, we do television movies for the historical projects that to combine them. Like there was a jubilee of Grigory Skovoroda, that is a philosopher, one of the backbones of Ukrainian philosophy school. There was Prague is the place where our orchestra was moving in 1918, trying to catch the attention of people in Paris who were deciding about how the borders will be managed after the First World War. This is a huge story, you know, about the Carol of the Bells, actually, the Shedrik in Ukrainian. And we produce it a lot because people were going to Soviet schools and don't know it. There's many things that are still underwater, and we have a lot of things to produce there. And as soon as television is it has much more inertia, this is where we combine it with TV and radio and digital formats immediately.
We have time for one more question, quick one. There's a lady in the middle of the middle of the middle.
In the middle of the middle.
In the middle. Do not throw the microphone.
We have plenty of lovely memes for Middle Earth and Gondor and stuff.
Still have a few minutes. So.
Hello, I'm Anastasia from David Systems, and I want to say thank you for what you're doing. It's a very emotional topic for me because I'm Ukrainian myself, and I wanted to actually tackle this topic. How do you keep up your mental health? How did it change within the last 13 months? And how will it change after the war?
The simple answer to the question, how do you keep your mental health, is we don't. But that was a joke. But seriously, we have a lot of issues. We hired a psychologist on board who is full-time job of providing psychological help to our employees, speaking about the company. And we do a series of trainings. We had trainings for first medical aid, and we do trainings for fighting the stress and getting your brain into good condition. It's definitely especially important for the journalists, because I can hardly imagine what they've seen. 3 or 4 of our projects are now studied as the materials for the International Criminal Court investigations. So it's a very good quality investigative journalism, but they see it with their own eyes. And I wish no one had seen what they did in the last half a year. Yeah. So yes, we put a lot of attention of trying to help people feel better.
Anyone else, really quick? No?
There's one
Or
more
am I
hand.
not seeing? Oh, sorry, there's someone up there. I can't really see you very well, I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Alex from Swedish Public Radio. Also want to say thank you for being here. It's fantastic seeing you. Considering the war is also a war on information, how do you handle the inflow of information from the front, and how do you determine what's the truth and what's perhaps Russian propaganda? Have you in any ways changed the way you work regarding fact-checking?
Thank you for that question. We spent several years before the war reforming the public broadcaster so that it would be the best-in-class verified source of information. We had a lot of support from Swedish, from British, from European programs that helped us create a big team of journalists who would be very well trained in terms of verification. This is from our side of the pipeline, I would say. On another side, yes, there are security limitations regarding information off the front, but definitely there's a huge flow of information that needs verification, and this is what our people do. And people appreciate that, because I'm in charge of research, so we did quarterly research of news consumption through the year, through online platforms, through smartphone apps, because you can hardly ask people in the street when during the curfews, But we got more than 80% who would say that they trust us, of those who use our news, that they trust that this is a valuable source of information. So I hope the guys do their job really well. It was fun. The fun thing was once they missed, when it all just started, there were this wave of unannounced visits, and all our journalists were trained that they can't do a news item if it's not confirmed from minimum two independent sources, That's why we were late to announce the first visit of Boris Johnson to Kyiv. And when my boss told the journalists what the hell is going on, they told, hey, we just heard it from the embassy. No other verified source.
Well, I must say it's been quite moving and interesting and great to have you here. I'm very glad you're here. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, time is up, but Andriy will be around for quite some time, so do find him and just ask what you want to know, and we'll make sure we won't forget Ukraine. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.